Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, I have to be honest with you right out of the gate. I sat down to read the briefing notes for this deep dive this morning. I had the PDF open, I had my coffee, I was ready to go. And then I don't even know what happened.
The drift.
The drift, that's exactly it. I think I checked my email just for a second to see if a package had shipped.
Of course, the classic just for a second.
Right. And then I realized I needed to buy paper towels, so I opened a new tab for Amazon. And suddenly it was, I kid you not, 20 minutes later, I was deep into reading reviews for a toaster I do not need, and I hadn't read a single word of our notes. Not one.
It's the modern condition, isn't it? You are definitely not alone in that. That story it's universal at this point.
It feels like my brain is leaking, like I'm actually trying to hold water in a sieve. It slips through.
If there is a defining crisis of the modern mind, I think this is it. We're talking about attention today, but not just in that pay attention way, like a teacher scolding a student.
Right, not as a moral failing.
Exactly. We are talking about the physiological and the psychological ability to actually hold a thought, to hold it without it just shattering into a million little pieces.
And we aren't just riffing here. For this deep dive, we've done something a little different. We've taken this massive stack of research, we're talking academic papers, productivity literature, neurobiology, all of it, and we've run it through this gauntlet of 8 different AI models.
A whole council of them.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking Claude, Gemini, Perplexity, Copilot, Grok, DeepSeek, ChatGPT, and Kimi.
We basically convened a digital council of elders. We tasked them with one mission: synthesize everything, figure out why we can't focus, and then, more importantly, give us the absolute best, most scientifically grounded advice on how to reclaim the human brain.
And the consensus they came back with is, it's a bit frightening on one hand,
It is.
but it's also incredibly practical. It turns out focus isn't some fixed personality trait. It's not something you just have or don't have.
Right. That's probably the biggest takeaway from the entire synthesis. And Gemini was particularly strong on this framing. Focus is a biological function. It's a muscle. And right now, we are all collectively living in a world that is perfectly designed to atrophy that muscle, to let it waste away.
I read one stat in the notes that absolutely floored me. It said the average attention span on a screen is now down to about 47 seconds.
47 seconds. And it gets worse.
There was another one, something that a 6-second loop. What was that?
Yes, that's the story part. For many people, especially on platforms like, TikTok or Reels, the entire loop of engagement is designed to happen every 6 seconds. If you aren't hooked in 6 seconds, you scroll. So your brain is literally being trained thousands of times a day with thousands of little reps that if something isn't immediately stimulating, you should abandon it.
Wow, that is terrifying. It's like we're training ourselves to have ADHD. We're conditioning ourselves for it.
We are absolutely conditioning ourselves for distraction. But here's the good news, the hopeful part. Because it's a muscle, it can be retrained. It's not a permanent sentence. You're not broken. The muscle is just weak.
So the mission for today is to rebuild the machine, to take it to the gym. We're going to break this down into 4 distinct layers based on the synthesis from our AI council. We're starting with the hardware, the actual biology of your brain and body. Then we'll move to the software, your environment,
And the operating system.
your workflow. And finally, the user, your mindset.
It's a full stack renovation of the brain. And I'm really glad we're starting with the hardware because I think that's where most people get it wrong.
Oh, totally. We want the hack, right?
Right.
We want the shiny new app that blocks Twitter for us.
Yes.
We don't want to hear that we need to eat broccoli or go to bed on time.
Exactly. But as DeepSeek and Gemini and Copilot all pointed out in their analyses, and they were very clear on this, you cannot life hack your way out of poor physical maintenance. It's impossible. If the biological machinery isn't working, the software simply will not run.
Okay, so let's get into it. Section 1, the biological foundation. We're talking hardware maintenance. And the first pillar, unsurprisingly I guess, is sleep.
It's the boring answer, but it is the only answer that matters at a biological level. It's the absolute bedrock. You can have the best productivity system in the world, the most expensive noise-canceling headphones, the perfect monk mode app. But if your neurons are swimming in toxins because you haven't slept, none of it works. It's all just window dressing.
Swimming in toxins sounds incredibly dramatic. Is that Is that a literal thing?
It is completely literal. This is something that both Claude and Copilot highlighted from the neurobiological data. We really need to understand what happens in your head when you're awake. Your brain cells are constantly metabolizing. They're working hard, firing signals, and like any engine, they create exhaust.
Their products.
Exactly. Metabolic waste. Things like beta amyloid proteins, which you might have heard of because they're associated with Alzheimer's, and a bunch of other metabolic junk. This stuff builds up in the spaces between your brain cells all day long. It's like having a house party where everyone is just throwing their trash on the floor.
And sleep is the cleaning crew that comes in overnight.
A very specific cleaning crew. It's called the glymphatic system. This was a massive discovery in neuroscience relatively recently, too. When you enter deep sleep, your brain cells actually shrink a little bit. They physically get smaller, which creates more space between them.
Okay.
And then the glymphatic system opens up and floods that tissue with cerebrospinal fluid.
So it's a power wash.
It is a literal dishwasher cycle for your brain. It washes all that metabolic junk out of the tissue, down into the lymphatic system, and eventually to the liver to be processed and removed.
So what happens if I only sleep 5 hours? What if I pull an all-nighter?
You didn't run the rinse cycle. Simple as that. You wake up with a brain that is still full of yesterday's trash, that brain fog you feel, that physical heaviness behind your eyes. That's not just a feeling, it is cellular congestion. You are literally thinking through sludge.
That explains so much. I always just thought, I'm just tired, but what's really happening is I am intoxicated by my own brain's waste products.
Essentially, yes, and this has a direct, measurable impact on inhibition. This is a really key concept we need to land on early. Focus is not the act of staring at something. Focus is the act of ignoring everything else.
Wait, say that again. Distinguish that for me. That feels like a subtle but really important distinction.
Okay, think about it this way. To look at your computer screen requires almost no energy. Your eyes just do that naturally. That's the easy part. But to not look at the little movement in your peripheral vision, to not listen to the hum of the refrigerator, to not start daydreaming about what you want for lunch, to not pick up your phone, all of that requires active suppression.
It's an active no. You're constantly saying no to things.
A constant stream of no. And that suppression, that executive function, happens in your prefrontal cortex. That's the CEO of your brain. And the thing about the prefrontal cortex is that it's incredibly energy expensive and it's extremely sensitive to fatigue. When you are sleep deprived, the CEO basically goes offline. You lose the ability to say no to distractions.
So it's not that the distraction got stronger overnight. My defense against it just got weaker.
Precisely. You become a victim of your environment because the very mechanism that protects you from it is offline. It ran out of power.
Okay, so sleep is completely non-negotiable. 7 to 9 hours, period. But there was another biological factor in the notes that really surprised me because it seems so minor. Hydration.
It seems minor until you understand the electricity of it all.
The electricity.
Your brain is fundamentally an electrical organ. Thoughts, memories, focus, these are all electrical impulses firing across synapses between neurons.
Yeah.
And water, specifically water with electrolytes like sodium and potassium, is the conductive medium for those signals. It's the wiring.
I feel like I know this on some level, but I definitely don't act on it. I'm going to drink coffee. I drink soda.
Gemini and DeepSeek pulled up some really fascinating data on this. Even mild dehydration, and we're talking a tiny 1% to 2% drop in your body's water volume, can lead to a significant drop in cognitive performance.
What does a 2% drop even feel like? Am I parched? Am I desperately thirsty?
That's the catch. By the time you feel the actual sensation of thirst, you are usually already past that 2% point. You're already seeing a measurable degradation in short-term memory, in your ability to focus, and in visual tracking.
So that mid-afternoon crash, when I'm staring at the screen and I feel like I just can't process the words anymore.
It might not be a caffeine deficiency. In fact, it's very likely a fluid deficiency. And what's the first thing most of us do?
Reach for another coffee.
Which is a diuretic.
Oh, man. So it makes you pee more.
Potentially dehydrating you even further. It's a classic vicious loop. You're just whipping a tired, dehydrated horse, hoping it will go faster.
So the advice is simply drink water.
Consistently. Throughout the day, before you feel thirsty, keep a big bottle on your desk at all times. It is, without a doubt, the cheapest cognitive enhancer in the world.
Okay, so moving on from intake to output, or rather movement.
Yeah.
Grok had a very punchy phrase in the synthesis that stuck with me. Blood flow to the body means blood flow to the brain.
I love that framing. We tend to think of the brain as this isolated computer sitting in a bone box, totally disconnected from the rest of us. But it's an organ, a hungry organ. It requires a constant supply of oxygen and glucose, and both of those are delivered via blood.
But I'm guessing that sitting in a Zoom chair for 6 hours straight acts like a kink in the hose.
It is effectively a kink in the hose. When you are sedentary for long periods, your circulation slows down. Gravity starts to pool blood in your lower extremities. The delivery of fuel and oxygen to your brain literally slows down, and so you get sluggish.
The advice here wasn't go to the gym for an hour every day, though. It was much more tactical than that.
Right, it's not about one big workout. The sources suggest micromovements. The key is frequency. Every hour, you absolutely need to change your state. Stand up, do a few stretches, do 10 jumping jacks, walk to the kitchen and back,
Just to get the heart rate up a little bit.
just enough to reset the circulation, to get the pump working again. Even a 2-minute walk can significantly increase blood flow to the brain and trigger the release of something called brain-derived neurotrophic factor BDNF.
Look at that.
Think of it like fertilizer for your neurons. It helps repair them and grow new connections.
Okay, so sleep, hydrate, move. That's the trinity. Now, speaking of physical resets, we have to talk about the eyes, because this was a specific tactical rule from Gemini that I tried yesterday, and it's actually much harder than it sounds. The 20-20-20 rule.
Oh yeah, this is crucial for anyone who works on a screen, which is pretty much all of us now.
Walk me through the mechanism here. Why do my eyes get so tired just from looking at a screen?
Okay, think about your bicep. If I told you to hold a 5-pound weight halfway up a curl, so your arm is bent at 90 degrees, and I said, just hold it there, don't move, for 4 hours, what would happen?
My arm would fall off, it would cramp, it would burn, it would scream at me.
Exactly. Now think about your eyes. To look at a screen that's maybe 18 inches away from your face, the tiny ciliary muscles inside your eyes have to contract to change the shape of your lens and hold that specific focal point. They are holding the weight.
And we do that for 8, 10, sometimes 12 hours a day.
We do. And this leads to digital eye strain, which isn't just a physical feeling, it translates directly to mental fatigue. Your brain uses a huge amount of its processing power just for vision. If the visual hardware is straining, it drains the whole system's battery.
So the rule is?
The 20-20-20 rule.
Yeah.
Every 20 minutes, you look at something that is 20 feet away for at least 20 seconds.
Why 20 feet specifically? What's magical about that distance?
20 feet is roughly the distance where those little ciliary muscles can fully relax. It's what's known as optical infinity for the human eye. They don't have to contract at all.
It's letting the muscle completely uncoil.
Exactly. It completely resets the focal depth. It's like putting the weight down for 20 seconds before you have to pick it up again.
I put a sticky note on my monitor yesterday that just said 20-20-20. I think I managed to do it maybe 3 times all day, but honestly, even that helped. It breaks the trance.
It is a practice. It requires a bit of mindfulness to remember to do it, but the payoff for mental endurance over the course of a day is huge.
Before we leave the hardware section, we have to touch on diet. Grok and DeepSeek both mention this. And again, it's all about energy management, isn't it?
Yeah, the main takeaway from all the sources here is about avoiding the spike and the crash.
The sugar roller coaster.
The sugar roller coaster, exactly. If you eat a high-sugar, high-carb lunch, let's say a big bowl of pasta and a soda, you get this massive, immediate burst of glucose into your bloodstream.
And I feel great. For about 20 minutes, I feel like a genius.
And then your pancreas goes into panic mode. It dumps a huge amount of insulin into your system to manage that sugar, and your blood glucose plummets. It crashes. And your brain interprets that sudden drop as a crisis. It thinks it is starting.
So it starts shutting things down.
It shuts down all non-essential functions to conserve energy. And guess what's at the top of the list for non-essential when the brain thinks it's in survival mode?
Deep, complex, philosophical thought.
Exactly. Deep concentration is a luxury. Survival is the priority. So you get sleepy, you get irritable, you crave more sugar, and you absolutely cannot focus.
So the prescription from the sources is things like proteins, fiber, healthy fats.
Anything that provides a slow, steady release of energy. You want a candle burning all afternoon, not a firework that goes off and then is gone.
All right. So we've hydrated, we've slept, we've stretched, we've eaten our protein, the hardware is tuned up and ready to go. Now we have to talk about the software. Or rather, let's talk about a huge bug in the software that we all seem to have. The myth of multitasking.
Ah, yes. The great delusion of the modern worker. The lie we all tell ourselves.
Claude calls it a myth. Gemini calls it a performance killer. But here's my pushback, and I think a lot of listeners will feel this too. I feel productive when I multitask. When I'm on a Zoom call and I'm answering the email and I'm checking a Slack message, I feel like a wizard. I feel like I'm dominating the day.
You feel busy. And that is a very, very different sensation from being productive. You are mistaking agitation for effectiveness.
Okay, hit me with the reality then. What is actually happening in my brain when I think I'm doing two things at once?
Well, the first thing to know is you're not. You are not doing two things at once. Unless one of them is completely automatic, like walking or chewing gum, your brain is incapable of focusing on two cognitive tasks simultaneously. You cannot write an email and listen to a podcast at the same time. They both require the language processing center. It's one channel.
So what am I doing then if it's not multitasking? What is it?
You are rapid switching. That's the technical term. You're doing task A. You pause, you reconfigure your entire neural network for task B. You do that for 3 seconds, you pause, you reconfigure back to task A.
It's like stop-and-go traffic for the brain.
That is the perfect analogy. And
Yeah.
you know how much more gas you burn in stop-and-go traffic compared to just cruising on the highway?
Oh, way more. It's incredibly inefficient.
Same for the brain. It is metabolically expensive to switch contexts. But there's a deeper, more insidious problem here. There's a concept called attention residue. This comes from research that was implied in the Perplexity and the DeepSeek notes.
Attention residue. It sounds sticky.
It is very sticky. When you switch from task A to task B, your attention doesn't just follow you instantly and completely. A part of your brain is still stuck on task A. It's still processing it. Did I word that email right? What did he really mean by that comment? Oh, I should have added this.
It's like a ghost in the machine. A little bit of the last task lingers.
Exactly. So when you start task B, you are not giving it 100% of your cognitive resources. You might only be giving it 70% because 30% of your brain power is still chewing on the residue of the previous task.
And if I switch again a few seconds later?
You fracture it further, and again, you end up operating with just a fraction of your actual intelligence.
And this leads to the statistic that absolutely stopped me in my tracks when I was reading the notes, the IQ stat.
This is the one that usually gets people's attention.
Yeah. Gemini cited research suggesting that being in a state of multitasking, this constant rapid switching, can lower your effective IQ by about 10 points in the moment.
10 points. To put that in perspective for you, that is roughly the difference between having an average intelligence and being borderline cognitively impaired.
Or, to put it another way that I read, it's the same cognitive hit as missing a full night of sleep.
Or being high.
So you're telling me I'm sitting at my desk, I'm sober, I'm well-rested, I've had my water, but because I'm toggling between tabs and checking Slack while I'm trying to write, I am effectively working as if I'm drunk.
In terms of your executive function, your error rate, and your logical processing power, yes, you are actively making yourself stupider in real time.
That is incredibly humbling and also terrifying.
And it's expensive. The cognitive cost is really high. You burn through your brain's glucose stores so much faster. So you get tired and foggy by 2 p.m. not because you did hard, meaningful work, but because you did incredibly inefficient switching work all morning.
So the solution then is monotasking, which sounds lovely and zen, but let's be real. Is it even possible in the modern workplace? My boss expects a response on Slack within minutes. The whole world demands constant response.
Ideally, yes, we just monotask. But you're right, it's incredibly hard in practice. And this is where we have to move to section 3, mastering the environment. Because you cannot monotask if your environment is constantly screaming at you to multitask. You have to build a fortress.
A fortress around our attention. I like that.
Right.
So let's start with the physical fortress, and specifically the one-screen rule. This was a tip from Gemini that I actually found really controversial. I pushed back on it at first.
It goes against the whole hacker aesthetic, doesn't it? We love our command centers. 3 monitors, vertical displays, data flowing everywhere.
I feel powerful with 3 monitors. I feel like I'm in NASA mission control or something.
But Gemini's synthesis forces us to ask a hard question. Do you actually need them for this task? Or are they just billboards for distraction?
The argument being that visual clutter equals mental clutter.
Think about it. If you have your main work on your center screen, let's say it's a Word document, but your email is open on the left screen and Slack is open on the right screen. Even if you aren't looking directly at them, your peripheral vision is evolutionarily designed to detect movement.
To see the tiger in the grass.
Precisely.
Wow.
So every time a pixel changes color on that side monitor, every time a little banner flashes or a number in a red circle appears, your brain registers it. Your amygdala, the alarm system, goes, "What was that? Threat." And your prefrontal cortex has to spend a little bit of energy to say, "Ignore it, it's just an email."
So I am paying a constant low-level inhibition tax just to have those screens on.
You are draining your willpower battery just on active inhibition. So the advice is radical but simple. If the task you're doing right now doesn't strictly require the second screen, like if you're not literally copy-pasting data from one sheet to another, turn it off.
Just go dark.
Go dark. Make it a black mirror. Focus your entire visual field on the single thing you are trying to accomplish.
That is going to be a hard sell for me, I have to admit. But I get the logic. It's about reducing the noise.
Visual noise is real noise to the brain.
Speaking of noise, let's talk about the digital environment. Notifications. We all know we should turn them off. We've heard it a million times. But there's a number in here, the ping effect, that suggests the cost of an interruption is way, way higher than the few seconds it takes to read the text. 23 minutes. 23 minutes to get back on track. That seems impossible. How? If I look at a text for 10 seconds, how on earth does it take 23 minutes to recover?
It's not 23 minutes to start typing again. It's 23 minutes to get back to the same level of deep focus you were in before the interruption.
Okay. That makes more sense.
Think of deep focus like building a really intricate house of cards in your mind. You are holding multiple complex variables. You are connecting ideas. You have this delicate structure built up. Then ping. Hey, did you see this funny meme?
The house of cards just collapses.
Completely collapses. You look at the meme. You laugh. You answer the text. Then you look back at your work. And you have to rebuild that entire house of cards from scratch. Okay, where was I? What was that connection I was about to make?
See.
That rebuilding process takes a long, long time.
So if I get interrupted just 3 times in an hour.
You have effectively done 0 minutes of deep, meaningful work in that hour. You spent the entire hour just in recovery mode.
Wow. That explains why I could spend 8 hours in the office and feel like I got nothing done, even though I was working the whole time.
You weren't working. You were busy recovering from interruptions.
So rule 1 is turn off the notifications. But Gemini and Copilot went a step further with something they called the face-down fallacy. I am so guilty of this. I put the phone face down on the desk. I feel very virtuous. I'm a good boy. I can't see the screen.
But you know it's there.
I know it's there.
And because you know it's there, your brain is running a background process. It's like a low-humming refrigerator in the back of your mind. I wonder if there's a message. I wonder if anyone liked that post. Should I check? No, don't check. I'm focusing. That internal monologue uses precious bandwidth.
So the phone on the desk is like a loaded gun. You have to actively use willpower not to touch it.
It exerts a gravitational pull on your attention. The only real solution, and the research on this is very clear, is physical removal.
Put it in another room.
Put it in another room, put it in a drawer, put it in your bag, and zip it up. Out of sight, genuinely out of mind. Studies have shown that just having the phone in the room, even if it's turned off, measurably reduces your available cognitive capacity compared to having it in another room entirely.
That is wild. We are that attached to them.
We are tethered to them,
Right.
And we have to cut the tether, at least for a while.
Okay, one more environmental tip from the digital world. Browser tabs. Tab minimalism.
Keep fewer than 5 tabs open at any given time. I am getting nervous just hearing you say that. I have a system. I have my read later tabs. I have my don't forget about this project tabs.
Which are really just feel guilty later tabs.
Ouch. That's fair.
They are all open loops. Every time your eyes scan across your browser and you see that tiny little favicon for that article, your brain registers an unfinished task. I need to read that article. I need to buy that soap. It adds to the overall cognitive load. It's a weight.
So the advice is to bookmark them and close them. Get them out of sight.
If it's important enough to save it to a system. A bookmark folder, a to-do list, a note-taking app. If it's not, just kill it. But don't leave it hovering there staring at you all day.
It's a form of visual nagging.
That's a great way to put it.
And finally, on the environment, let's talk about the physical senses. Lighting and sound. What's the optimal setup for focus?
Gemini's synthesis specifically mentioned using cool white LED bulbs.
Why cool white? What's wrong with the warm, cozy light? It mimics daylight. The color temperature is around 5,000 to 6,500 Kelvin. This specific wavelength of light hits the receptors in your eyes and sends a signal to your biological clock, your circadian rhythm, that it is daytime. It's time to be alert. Warm yellow light signals evening. It's for relaxation and winding down. Cool bluish light is for focus.
And what about sound?
Well, noise-canceling headphones are a must if you're in any kind of noisy space, but you have to be careful with what you play through them. The advice across the board is to use things like white noise, brown noise, or instrumental music like lo-fi beats.
The key is no lyrics.
Absolutely no lyrics, especially if you're doing any kind of language-heavy work. If you are trying to read or write and you're listening to a song with words, your brain's language centers are trying to process two separate streams of language at once.
It's multitasking again, at a sensory level.
It's cognitive conflict. Instrumental music is much safer for deep focus.
Okay, so we've fixed the hardware, we've cleaned up the physical and digital environment. Now we actually need a workflow. We need an architecture for our day. Because just sitting down and saying, I will now focus for 8 hours straight, is a recipe for complete and utter failure.
It's impossible. It's not how humans work. No one can do that. We need to build systems that work with our biology, not against it.
And the most famous one, of course, is the Pomodoro technique.
The classic 25 minutes of focused work followed by a 5-minute break.
Why does this work so well? On the surface, it seems almost too simple to be effective.
It works because it dramatically reduces the barrier to entry. Claude and Gemini both point out that it reduces the anxiety of what they call endless work. If I tell you to sit down and write a book, that's terrifying. It's a huge abstract goal. Your brain resists. It procrastinates to avoid the perceived pain.
It feels infinite, like a task that has no end.
But if I tell you just write for 25 minutes and then you can stop and check your phone, that's completely manageable. Anyone can do anything for 25 minutes.
It tricks your brain into just starting, which is often the hardest part.
And knowing that a break is always just around the corner helps you push through the inevitable urges to distract yourself. You think, I really want to check Instagram, but the timer says I only have 4 minutes left. I can wait 4 minutes.
It kind of gamifies the process a little bit,
Yeah.
turns it into a mini challenge. Now, Kimi and DeepSeek suggested taking this a step further. They argued that for really deep work, 25 minutes might actually be too short.
Right. If you are really in the zone, let's say you're a programmer deep in a complex problem, or you're writing a complex strategy document, it can take 15 or 20 minutes just to load all the context into your working memory. The 25-minute timer might ring just as you're finally hitting your stride.
So you're interrupting your own flow state.
You're pulling yourself out of the very state you were trying to achieve. And this is where the concept of ultradian rhythms comes into play.
Ultradian. Break that down for me.
We all know about circadian rhythms. That's the big 24-hour sleep-wake cycle. Ultradian rhythms are much shorter cycles that happen within the day. Research suggests that our energy and focus naturally peak and trough in waves of about 90 to 120 minutes.
So there's a natural 90-minute battery life for high-level focus.
Roughly, yes. So the advanced move is to work in a focus block for 90 minutes, to ride that natural wave all the way up and then all the way down, and then take a significantly longer break. Not 5 minutes, maybe 20 or 30 minutes.
Real meaningful rest.
Real rest, to let the mental tank actually refill before the next wave.
Okay, so the strategy is something like this. If I'm struggling to get started, use Pomodoro 255 to get the wheels turning. If I'm already feeling energized and ready to go deep, I should aim for an ultradian cycle, 9:20.
That's a fantastic heuristic. Match the tool to your current energy level.
Speaking of energy levels, let's talk about Eat the Frog.
Ah, Mark Twain's famous advice.
Yeah.
If it's your job to eat a frog, it's best to do it first thing in the morning. And if it's your job to eat 2 frogs, it's best to eat the biggest one first.
Which, in productivity terms, translates to tackle your most important and cognitively demanding task first thing in the morning.
Gemini synthesis explains the biology behind why this is so effective. It's when your willpower battery is at its fullest.
Is willpower actually a battery? I always thought that was just a metaphor.
It's a very accurate metaphor for the glucose and neural resources available to your prefrontal cortex. In the morning, theoretically, you've just slept. Your brain has been cleaned. Your prefrontal cortex is fresh and fully fueled. You have the maximum amount of inhibition and executive function available for the entire day. You can force yourself to do the hard thing you don't want to do.
And yet we usually do the exact opposite. We start the day with emails. We tell ourselves, I'll just clear the decks, or I'll get the small, easy stuff out of the way first.
And by the time you're done clearing the decks, it's 11 a.m., your willpower battery is already down to 60%, you've been pinged 5 times, and you simply don't have the mental juice left for the big, important project.
So if you save the hard work for the afternoon, you are basically betting on a losing horse.
You are systematically setting yourself up to fail. Every single day.
So eat the frog, and do it by using time blocking. This was Copilot's big contribution to the workflow section. Don't just work from a to-do list. Actually schedule these deep work blocks on your calendar. Why is scheduling it on the calendar better than just having it on a list?
It comes down to decision fatigue. If you have a to-do list with 20 items on it, every time you finish one, you have to stop and make a decision. What do I do next?
Should I call Bob? Or should I start writing that report? Or maybe I should verify the data first.
And that decision costs mental energy. And in that moment of low energy, we almost always choose the easiest, most convenient thing, not the most important thing. If it's on the calendar, 9:00 a.m. to 10:30 a.m., write first draft of report, the decision is already made. You just have to obey the calendar.
The calendar becomes your boss.
Exactly. You outsource your executive function to the piece of paper or the app, which saves your precious brain power for the actual work.
There was one more tactical tip in this section that I absolutely loved. It was from DeepSeek, and it was about next action clarity. Because just putting write report on my calendar is a terrible entry.
Oh, it's the worst. It's vague. It's huge. It's scary. When your brain looks at a task like write report, it just sees a giant, unclimbable mountain. It recoils. It doesn't know where to grab hold.
So what should the calendar entry be instead?
You have to break it down into the smallest possible physical microsteps. Not write report. It should be open the Google Doc for the report, type an outline for only section 1, find 3 sources for the introduction, and paste the links.
Use actionable verbs.
Exactly. Vague goals create cognitive load and invite procrastination. Specific, tiny actions create momentum. You want to make the very first step so small and so easy that it would be ridiculous not to do it.
Open the document. Okay, I can do that.
And usually once the document is open, the rest starts to follow. The friction is always highest right at the start.
Okay, let's pivot to the final layer, the mindset. Because even with the perfect desk and the perfect schedule and the frog sitting on my plate, my brain still wants to wander. It still wants to drift.
Of course it does. It's designed to wander. We evolved over millennia to scan the horizon for lions and look for berries, not to stare at spreadsheets for 8 hours straight.
So we are fundamentally fighting our own biology here.
We are training our biology. We're adapting an ancient operating system for a modern world. And this brings us right back to that muscle analogy. This is section 5, mental training.
We literally need to go to the gym for our brains.
We do. And the primary #1 exercise here, according to the sources, is mindfulness and meditation.
Now, I know some people immediately tune out when they hear the word meditation. They think it's about incense and chanting and having to be spiritual.
We really need to reframe it. Claude and Gemini both emphasize this very strongly. Meditation isn't just for relaxation. It is, first and foremost, attention training. It's a workout.
How so? What's the mechanism?
Think about what actually happens when you try to meditate. You sit down, you try to focus on one thing, usually your breath, and then inevitably your mind wanders. You start thinking about dinner or that email you forgot to send.
Right. Happens every time.
Then, at some point, you have a moment of awareness. You notice that you were thinking about dinner. And in that moment, you make a gentle, non-judgmental choice to bring your attention back to your breath.
That's the whole loop.
That specific moment, the moment you notice the wandering and you consciously bring your attention back, that is the rep. That is the bicep curl for your brain's attention muscle.
I absolutely love that framing. So getting distracted during meditation isn't a failure?
No, it's the entire point. If you didn't get distracted, you wouldn't be training the muscle. You need the distraction so you can practice the return.
That is such a relieving perspective. I always thought I was bad at meditating because my mind is so chaotic and noisy.
Then you're getting a fantastic workout. The more you practice the return when you're sitting on the cushion, the stronger that focus muscle becomes in your daily life. Then, when you're writing that report and you get the random urge to check Twitter, your trained brain goes, ping, I notice a distraction, I see the urge. No, we're returning to the report.
It gives you that crucial split-second gap between the impulse and the action, where you can actually make a choice.
Exactly. Without the training, you just unconsciously follow the urge. With the training, you notice the urge and you can choose whether or not to act on it.
But there's a chemical side to this, too. We also have to deal with the enemy within, dopamine.
The dopamine problem, the master molecule of craving and motivation.
Perplexity and ChatGPT talk a lot about this. We are basically addicted to the cheap, easy hits of it.
We are. Our modern digital world is a dopamine buffet. News, social media, scrolling, email notifications, they all operate on a principle called intermittent variable rewards. It's literally a slot machine. You pull the lever by refreshing the page. Maybe you get a reward, a like of a new email. Maybe you don't. You pull it again.
And this causes a big spike in dopamine.
High, fast, unpredictable spikes. And here's the problem. When your brain gets used to those high, fast dopamine hits as its baseline, low dopamine activities start to feel physically painful.
They feel boring.
Exactly. Reading a book, writing a strategy document, having a long, deep conversation with a friend. These activities release dopamine too, but it's a slow, steady trickle. If your baseline expectation is set to the fireworks of TikTok, a book feels like dying of boredom.
So we have to intentionally reset our dopamine baseline.
We have to do a dopamine detox, or what some sources call a low-information diet.
This sounds pretty intense. Does that mean I have to go live in a cave for a month?
It doesn't have to be that extreme. It can be simple. It means limiting news and social media to specific designated times of the day. You don't graze on it all day long like it's a bowl of candy.
So I will check Instagram for 15 minutes at 6 p.m., not I will check it whenever I feel the slightest twinge of boredom.
Right. And that leads directly to DeepSeek's insight, which is maybe the hardest one of all for modern people. You have to embrace boredom.
We are terrified of being bored.
We treat boredom like a pathology, like it's some kind of disease that needs to be cured immediately with a screen.
Standing in line at the grocery store, waiting for the elevator, using the bathroom even.
We plug every single tiny gap in our day with stimulation. And by doing that, you deny your brain the crucial downtime it needs to consolidate memories and process information. You're constantly in a state of input and never in a state of processing.
So you're saying we should just allow our minds to wander sometimes?
Yes. The default mode network of the brain kicks in when you are bored or daydreaming. And that's where a lot of creativity happens. That's where you make novel connections between ideas. That's where problem solving happens subconsciously. If you never let your mind just wander, you might never have a truly original thought.
So it's okay to just sit and stare at a wall for 2 minutes.
It's not just okay, it's probably necessary for your mental health.
There's one more really practical psychological trick in here from Kimi. It's called implementation intentions.
This is a classic if-then planning strategy. It's super powerful.
How does it work?
You decide in advance with a cool head what you are going to do when things inevitably go wrong, because you will get distracted.
So you're scripting your response to failure ahead of time.
Exactly. You write it down. If I feel the urge to check my phone, then I will take 3 deep breaths and return my focus to the task.
You pre-program the desired response.
Yes. Because in the moment of temptation, your willpower is at its weakest. If you have a preloaded script ready to go, you don't have to decide what to do. You just execute the script you already wrote.
If I feel distracted, then I will take a sip of water.
Perfect. It interrupts the old bad habit loop and replaces it with a neutral or even positive one.
Okay, we've covered the fundamentals. The hardware, the software, the workflow, the mindset. But for the listeners who want to go pro, who want to take this to the absolute extreme, Section 6 covers what you could call advanced lifestyles.
This is for the hardcore, the people who want to become grandmasters of focus.
Which starts with something called monk mode.
Monk mode. Perplexity and ChatGPT both discuss this concept. It's a period of rigorous, intense elimination of all distractions for a set period of time.
So it's like for the next 2 weeks, I am literally a monk.
Pretty much. No social media, no television, no alcohol, a rigid sleep schedule, a specific clean diet, intense, scheduled, deep work blocks. It's not meant to be a permanent lifestyle. It's a sprint, a reset.
What's the ultimate point of doing something so extreme?
It's a full system reboot. It resets your dopamine baseline incredibly fast. It proves to you, unequivocally, that you are in control, not the apps on your phone. And it allows you to crush a massive amount of meaningful work in a very short period of time.
It's like a boot camp for your brain.
Exactly. And it ties into this larger concept of the deep life.
Perplexity brought this up, this idea of connecting focus to a much broader lifestyle choice.
Right. It's about seeing focus not just as a tool to get more emails done, but as a central pillar of a life of high-quality thinking and minimalist living.
I noticed in the notes that Perplexity mentioned a specific place, Deep Oak, in the context of finding quiet spots.
Yes. And that points to a broader strategy of location-based conditioning.
Yeah.
You intentionally find and create specific spots, particular corner of the library, a certain park bench, a specific coffee shop that becomes sacred spaces for deep thinking.
So you don't scroll Instagram there. You don't answer emails there.
Never. When you go to that spot, your brain knows this is where we think. It lowers the friction of getting into a focused state because the environment itself becomes a trigger for that state.
So going for a run in a quiet park isn't just exercise. It's actually part of the focus protocol.
It's clearing the mental cache. It's part of the work.
And for those of us who still need a little digital help to enforce this discipline, DeepSeek mentions some specific tools.
Yeah, website blockers. Apps like Freedom or Cold Turkey.
These are the nuclear options, right?
They absolutely are. You use these apps to literally lock yourself out of the internet or specific websites. You can set a timer for 2 hours and you cannot open Twitter or YouTube. Even if you restart your computer, you're locked out.
Sometimes you have to save yourself from yourself.
And that's okay. If your willpower muscle is still weak, use the software to support it. There is no shame in outsourcing your willpower to an app until your own internal muscle gets stronger.
Okay, we have covered a staggering amount of ground here. From the biology of glucose to the psychology of boredom to the nuclear option of locking your own computer.
It's a complete full-stack system.
So let's bring it all home. Let's summarize the hierarchy for the listener. If they're feeling overwhelmed and they want to reboot their brain, where do they start?
Right. It's best to think of it as a pyramid. You have to build the foundation first. Level 1, the absolute base, is biology. Sleep 7 to 9 hours to wash the brain. Hydrate constantly to conduct the signal. Move every hour to feed the brain. Use the 20-20-20 rule for your eyes. If this level is broken, nothing else you do will matter.
Got it. Foundation first. What's level 2?
Level 2 is environment. This is your fortress. Use the one-screen rule. Put your phone in another room. Turn off all notifications. Use cool lighting. Clear the visual clutter from your desk and your desktop.
And then level 3.
Level 3 is workflow. This is your operating system. Match your work sprints to your energy. Use Pomodoro for starting, ultradian rhythms for deep diving. Eat the frog first thing in the morning. Time block your day on your calendar with hyper-specific next actions.
And finally, at the very top of the pyramid, level 4.
Level 4 is mindset. This is the user training. Practice meditation like you're doing reps at the gym. Learn to embrace boredom. Actively manage your dopamine intake. Use if-then plans to pre-script your responses to distraction.
It's a lot. And I think the danger here is that listeners might feel overwhelmed. They might think, oh my God, I have to change my entire life tomorrow morning.
And that would be a huge mistake. The real so
Exactly.
what here, and this is something all the AI sources hinted at in their synthesis, is that perfection is the enemy of productivity.
Say more about that.
You are not a robot. You are a biological creature. You are not going to hit a perfect 8-hour uninterrupted flow state every single day. That's a fantasy. It's impossible.
So the goal isn't to achieve some kind of machine-like efficiency.
No. The goal is a cyclical management of your energy. You focus, then you rest. You will drift, and then you will practice returning. It's about being a little bit better today than you were yesterday, not about being perfect.
That's very reassuring.
And it's crucial to remember that getting distracted is part of the process. It's the return that builds the muscle and counts in the long run.
I want to leave the listener with one final, slightly provocative thought. We talked about financial debt, but a concept came to mind while reading all this. Attention debt.
Ooh, unpack that for me. I like that.
If you don't rest effectively, if you spend your 5-minute breaks scrolling TikTok or reading angry news articles instead of just staring at a wall or walking around, you aren't actually resting. You are still stimulating your brain, still spending that energy.
You aren't letting the account replenish.
Right. You are effectively borrowing focus from tomorrow to pay for the cheap, easy entertainment of today.
Wow, that is profound. And you're paying interest on your own attention.
Exactly. And eventually the bank comes to collect and you crash, you burn out, you have no attention left to give.
So true rest, boring rest, is actually a powerful investment in tomorrow's focus and productivity.
Exactly. So here is our challenge to you, the listener. Don't try to do all 20 things we mentioned today. Just pick one.
Just one. The smallest one that feels possible.
Maybe it's the phone in the other room trick. Maybe it's just the 20-20-20 rule. Maybe it's just drinking a big glass of water right now.
I would vote for the phone in the other room. I think that one gives you the highest return on investment immediately.
Try it tomorrow morning, just for 1 hour. Put the phone in a different room and see what happens to your brain when it doesn't have the option to be distracted.
You might be genuinely surprised at what you're capable of.
Thanks for diving deep with us. Go reclaim your brain.
We'll see you next time.